Good afternoon and welcome to the Social Service Grants meeting for April the 10th. I'm Councilwoman Ortiz. I represent District 3, and if my colleague would introduce herself.
Sure. Michelle Hofer, and I represent District 9.
Okay. Is Marcus with us yet? Nope.
I am.
He is. Okay. Can I get him on the side there? Any way I can get him on the side there? Marcus, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Marcus Miller, District 6. I'll be in person here very soon.
Okay. Watch the win. That's all I can say. First meeting is to call to order. We've done that. And second is election of the 2025 chair.
I nominate Sylvia Ortiz to be the 2025 chair.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Next is the grant process review of the SSG committee, and I believe that would be Brett. Is that correct?
That's me.
Okay,
Very
take it away.
Thank you, committee. Thanks, city staff. Thanks for the opportunity to serve in this capacity again. What we want to do is provide an opportunity to walk through the process, both the timeline and the process to ensure that this iteration of the committee is okay with the details that were settled by the previous Social Services Grants Committee. So what we'll do is just walk through the packet as you see it. We'll start with the timeline, even though the timeline is second in the agenda. We'll just start there. Okay. That seems an easy space for us to start. So if you'll take a look there, we did have a conversation in November and did adopt the priorities. The training session for the committee immediately following appointments in March. We're obviously now in April, so this would be April of 2025. The request for proposal to be released by April 14th, so that would be Monday. So this gives us an opportunity to ensure that we've got those details in place before that, and that we would hold the application workshop on April 28th. So we release the RFP in advance based on recommendations from this committee a few iterations ago, wanting to provide the information to social service agencies in advance so that they could read over it and come with questions to the workshop. So that's a practice that we adopted some years ago that we have continued. The applications then would be due May 27th at 5 p.m. Through EC Impact, which is the online grant portal that is used by both United Way, but was also used by the city of Topeka. That is the Tuesday after Memorial Day. We went back and forth as a team deciding whether or not we wanted to do it the Friday before Memorial Day or the Tuesday after, and decided that we would provide opportunity if folks wanted to use that weekend. It gives them just an extra day, and so that's the Tuesday following the holiday. So that would be 5 p.m. Those proposals then that are submitted will be reviewed, and the applicants that do not meet minimum standards for review will be notified by June 6th. So that gives the team an opportunity to review all of those and ensure that they've met the qualifications in order to be able to be considered for investment through the social services grants process. So that's the communication pieces, and then what the intake of applications looks like. In terms of the review process, we will secure 3 to 5 vendors, or excuse me, we'll secure 3 to 5 reviewers by May 12th of 2025, and we have qualifications that have come from the city that we use as determinants for that to ensure that we have qualified reviewers to review the applications and to score those. By June 20th, the application scoring as well as a year-end performance report for the prior year grants will be provided to this committee by United Way of Caw Valley. And so that gives the week of June 23rd. This committee will meet sometime during that week, and we may set that meeting date today to approve the scoring and recommendations that come through that process. Per the city's process, there is an opportunity for appeal, and so the applicants are notified of the scoring recommendations following that meeting the week of June 23rd, and then they have until the week of July 7th to appeal and to let us know in written form, and an email serves as written communication that they wish to appeal. That then gives us an opportunity to meet again in July to hear those appeals, and then the Social Services Grants Committee makes the final determinations. That gives us time for the recommendation to be prepared for City Council by August 1. And then at that point, the rest of these are dates that are internal to the city based on your budget process. So for us, the important dates really begin here in April with the release of the proposal on the 28th, the 14th, the workshop on the 28th, the due date, the 27th of May, and then these benchmarks in June and July to ensure that by August 1st we have recommendations ready for council in order to be a part of your budget process.
Brett, I have a quick question.
Certainly.
On the workshop, if they were to miss the workshop,
It's recorded.
it's recorded?
It's recorded.
So that doesn't disqualify them?
Does not disqualify them. No, so we will record it on Zoom, and then we will take it and we'll put it in the resource packet, and then we will notify them when it's ready, and then they can go in and they can click on it, they can watch it in Zoom, and they'll be able to see not only the presentation, but also the questions that were asked.
Okay, can you make a note? I would like to watch that as well.
Of course.
I don't know about any of my other colleagues, but I would send it to them or make it available for any of the council members. I think that would be helpful to us as well. A lot of times when we get in there and we ask questions, it's probably because I'm not planning on coming to the workshop. I guess I don't need no money, but
Of course.
anyway, so I think that'd be helpful. How do you feel that this process has been working? Do you see anything that we could streamline or do differently? I know we ask that question every year. I haven't received any complaints or anything. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I think we've had good conversation with the committee over the last few years and have made some changes that have made the process smoother. The one I alluded to earlier, I think the release of the request for proposal prior to the workshop, I think is important to be able to put it out to folks so that they can read through it and take notes and come prepared for questions, so that this may not be the first time that they're seeing it. I think aside from that, I think it's been a pretty smooth process. We continue to get good feedback from the agencies that apply, so at this point, we wouldn't have any recommendations for improvements at this
Okay.
time.
Do you have any questions?
No?
Okay. I feel like it's been pretty smooth. We've had just a few hiccups, but, it is what it is. Okay.
So then, at this point, what you have in front of you in your packet is the request for proposal. And we won't go through every page of this. But what we will do is take a look at some of the highlighted areas. These are decisions that were made by the previous committee, and just want to inform this iteration of the committee of that. And so, as you see on the title page, of course, the date of announcement will be released on the 14th of April, and then will be due on the 27th of May. So those are important dates. When we take a look at page 2, on the timetable, again, we've got that highlighted, but just want to note that that is in line with the timetable that we shared earlier. And again, we may not have all of those dates set exactly in terms of initial scoring and recommendations, which is why we put approximately on those, but it does give folks a sense of what those will look like. The available funds, I guess I skipped over this in section 1, approximately $492,000. We'll look at the breakdown of this and ensure that we're still good with that moving forward based on the previous budget. Of course, the priority areas, emergency aid and preventive counseling, and they need to be doing work within the bounds of the city of Topeka, and that these are two funding sources, both city general funds and also the CDBG, or the Community Development Block Grant Funds, so that it's a blended funding stream. Looking at page 3, again, just some basic details for the applicants to ensure that what they are proposing falls in line with what is required during the process. Again, you'll note that we have the request for proposal date and the due date throughout the RFP to ensure that individuals have ample opportunity to be able to see that. Of course, we've got the contact information there under section 3 for technical assistance. That's incredibly important. Not only do we have the workshop that is scheduled for April 28th, but we also have our team available throughout that process from April 28th through May 27th to ensure that all applicants have their questions answered in order to be able to put together their best possible proposals. I will say this is something that we pride ourselves on as an agency, and this is really the reason for this is really twofold. First, in terms of outward facing, we want to ensure that our social service agencies have access to professionals in the grant management and grant writing arena to ensure that they have resources so that if they need to ask questions or if they are unclear about the application, that they can ask that. And that's certainly important, and it's important for an outward-facing piece to provide that good service to social service agencies. The other piece of this that is incredibly important is that the scoring process is much easier if the applications are better. If the applications are poor, the scoring process is really difficult. It just makes it much more difficult on the reviewers, and it will ultimately make it much more difficult on you all to make those final decisions and recommendations. So it's really twofold. One is we want to ensure that we provide good service to the social service agencies and give them those resources, but also it's just better for the process all the way around when we do this. So want to sort of keep that in mind.
Brett, do we get many people who have not been through the process before? Do we get new ones every year, or?
That's a good question. So I will say we don't get a lot of new applications in terms of agencies. What we do have are new personnel. So in the social service world, there's just lots of turnover. The average tenure, 18 to 36 months, sometimes a little beyond. Yeah, it's just sort of part of our sector and part of the work that we do. So we want to ensure that we don't assume that just because an agency has applied before, that the individual behind that screen is familiar with the process. So we make sure that we make ourselves available to any individual. It's a good question, of course. So in terms of page 4, this is technical information and legal information that's important for the applicants and for United Way as a vendor, but also for the city of Topeka. So this is a lot of legal information to ensure that all parties in the process are protected and that their duties are clearly outlined. On page 5, there is a detail related to the reporting and the monitoring and the audits and the contractual process to ensure that, again, applicants recognize that once they are awarded funds, if they are awarded funds, that they do have to report on a quarterly basis, and that they may be audited and need to provide financial information to the city should they need to be able to should they be required to do that for any number of different reasons. The appeal process is also explained at the bottom of page 5, and that's where they are instructed to inform United Way of Kaw Valley in writing or by email within 7 calendar days of notification whether or not they wish to make appeal, so that we can then get that information to you all so that you can look over those applications prior to the appeal process. Finally, just some basic criteria for programs to ensure that they are eligible for investment through this process on page 6. Just basic standard information that's really required by any grant process. Page 7 is where there's a lot of detail that we just want to take a moment and make sure that you all are aware of, because these decisions were made by the previous committee. So here in part 4, we have the review committee criteria and information related to what the priority areas are, details about the grant in terms of minimum and maximum request amounts, the recommended funding, and then some other process pieces. So the mission statement for the social services grants, that these are outcome-based, quality, cost-effective social services to handle our vulnerable citizens with care, minimize victimization and crime, minimize turnover in neighborhoods, and optimize success. And then underneath that, there are examples of what this work would look like. In terms of the detail, the minimum request amount is $10,000. That does not mean that the minimum grant amount will be $10,000. And we make this clear in the grant workshop. The way the scoring process works is that the agencies are given a score, and then that score is multiplied by their request amount, and they are then awarded that amount of money. And we'll go over that on the next page. But what's important to note here is that the last applicant in the list will likely not receive the percentage of their request. They will receive whatever is left. And so that threshold really varies based on the scores of the applicants every year. But the minimum grant request amount is $10,000. The minimum grant award varies just based on the scores during the year. We did raise the maximum grant request amount last year to $27,000. And there are 2 agencies that have higher maximum grant amounts, the Shawnee County Medical Society Health Access Program and Positive Connections, based on the unique nature of their agencies and the services that they provide. New untested programs are not allowed. The agency must be in operation. The program, excuse me, not the agency. The program must be in operation at least 2 years prior to the date of application. So this is not intended by the city to be startup funding for new programs. It's to be funding for programs that have proven themselves at least for 2 years. Yeah. Questions? Yeah.
How much money do we have left over from last year, or do we have any money?
That's a good question.
So-
Juliet, do you have that amount? See if she can hear me.
So if we have any, my next question would be, is that gonna roll over to this year? Or is it use it or lose it, or?
That's a great question.
It is lose it or you cannot roll over any of the amounts, no.
So we typically have not had agencies leave money on the table at the end of the year, and so it hasn't been an issue for us. I haven't looked at those budgets. Year end was December 31st, so I haven't taken a look at those to see, but I can check with that and I can send that to the committee.
So do we look at like, and I'm just asking, I guess, with Health Connection, I'll use or Positive Connections as an example. I seen that they were on the TV and they're concerned about the cut that they're gonna receive. And so I'm sure they usually apply. So is it like matching money with them, or, it's just, that's all they can get is just what they apply for? Because that's not even gonna be a drop in the bucket for them.
So that's a great question, and this is the first time we're presenting to this committee in the current climate that we're in. There is a great deal of uncertainty among our social service partners, particularly those who are receiving federal dollars. But not just those who are receiving federal dollars, because when there are cuts at the federal level, that means that local dollars become more competitive.
Yeah.
And state dollars become more competitive.
Right.
And so it's not just about the federal dollars, it's about all of the dollars. I would say that
Well, and that's where I'm going with that. It's
Yeah.
going to affect everybody. I've just used them as an example, because then everybody's gonna come to the table, so.
yes. So we just finished our United Way grant process, and we saw agencies come to us and apply for programs, and they've not applied with us before. And they're doing that because of the uncertainty of the federal dollars. I would not want to bet on it, but my guess is that we may see an uptick in applications this year for social services grants through the city.
That was gonna be my follow-up. So that's why I was asking if the money
Yeah.
actually rolled over.
Yeah. So typically there hasn't been any rollover of dollars. No.
Correct. This would be, 2024 was the first year in many years that an agency was not able to spend all of their funding. I think it was roughly 50,000. We'll get you the specifics after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Happy to do that.
okay. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was kind of curious the rationale at the time when it was made of why 2 agencies. I understand that you said it because of the unique nature of their business. Is there a little more detail that we could have on that so we can kind of understand why that happened when it did?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Shawnee County Medical Society Health Access provides connections to healthcare for those that are uninsured or underinsured. So highly vulnerable populations that if they did not get that care, would end up costing a significant amount of money, not only to hospitals and other organizations down the road, but also lead to higher occurrences of things like untreated chronic disease and those types of things. And so given that they are the only organization that really does that type of work in the community in that type of way and is able to leverage the amount of donated care that they're able to do, they sort of have the kind of some niche work in that way. In terms of positive connections, obviously their work related to STIs, sexually transmitted infections, particularly HIV prevention, and that they are the organization within this city and this county in particular that are tasked with that through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. They are providing a unique service as well that affects the larger public health sphere, and so they then are providing that unique service. And so my understanding when we came on with this was that those were the reasons why those two agencies were set aside for larger amounts.
Perfect. And then I think that's a good understanding for the public at large, and other applicants who may question why those organizations may get a little more or have a higher amount. But when they see or they understand the ramifications that if we did not allow those amounts, we would have a wider range problem that will cost everyone more down the line. So obviously the nonprofits that don't get that exemption may feel that their work is just as important. It's also a big picture that they need to see why that specific niche nobody else does. Because if their program went away, sure, we'd find another program that would fill that hole, but nobody does what they do. So thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. I will also say that we've, over the last several years, have had some pretty robust conversation back and forth about that, and that's part of the reason why we increased the maximum grant amount request to $27,000. I think in part to be able to narrow that gap, but also it just hadn't been done in quite a while. So yeah, thank you for that, so that we have that on the record so folks can hear that. I think that's important.
I have the total amount that was left on the table if you'd like for 2024.
Sure.
Keep in mind that the 2025 first quarter reports are currently open. So the remaining amount was $38,708.33 for the 2024 year.
Juliet, can you repeat that?
Yes, it was $38,708.33.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
She said that, or whoever said that, it doesn't roll over.
It would be part of the general fund, so it
Okay.
would just not go out. It would just
Okay.
stay within the city.
Do we usually, and you said we usually don't see it that high, is that right, Brett?
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen this, and we had conversation with that partner related to that. They had they had transitions within their agency and an open position that they could not get filled. We had conversation with them to have conversation with us earlier, if that's the case, so that we can provide any assistance necessary or get the word out or whatever the case may be, because we reminded them of the value of these dollars,
And somebody else could have used it.
yeah, and that's exactly the conversation we had.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Sure.
I hate to ask it, but how secure is the CDBG money? Do we know?
No guarantees, but we should have contracts for that. Those are part of our con plan grants, and we are expecting contracts for that funding within the next few weeks or month. As far as I know, at this time, we are expecting to receive our funding at pretty normal allocations.
Okay, so we would know before we start making allocations whether it was there or not.
Yes, we will know within roughly the next month, so before we get to the final piece of the social service process.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because everything is in flux and we don't know what's going to happen. Thank you.
That was a good question, but Carrie's smiling, so I'm gonna take it that we're gonna be all right.
Not gonna borrow trouble.
Okay, any other questions? If not, review timeline, set future meetings, that's in the timeline though, right? Basically.
Yeah, so we need to take a look at these, and if we want to do that here, recognizing that we have Councilwoman Hofer here as a proxy for Councilman Dobler, if we want to do that via email through Tanya, we can with the committee.
How about if I let you and Tanya handle that?
We can absolutely do that.
And then she can
Yeah.
get it on our schedule. I think that's how we've always handled it, and we'll continue. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then she can kind of check with us. Okay, sounds good to me. Anything else? Carrie, do you have anything?
I don't. I will say though, we appreciate the partnership with United Way of Caw Valley. They have been great to work with, and I feel like we have a really great process in place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything? City manager? No? Next time bring cookies for everybody? Not just one person? We've seen it. Yes, he did. We've seen it. Busted.
I got it in the minutes.
Okay, you got it in the minutes about the cookies? Let the record reflect. You have anything? Okay, if there's nothing more, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.